Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to Chasing Fruit Loops. This is an internet show running out of Bobby Lacera's Paradise Studios in New York. Tonight's special guest is Throwdini. He is the fastest, most accurate knife thrower in the world. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, before I start, how do I address you?
Oh, wow. Well, there's a whole bunch of titles because I've worn many hats, but the simplest one that most of my friends call me is just very simply Throw.
Okay. Okay, Throw.
So,
So I was doing a little research, and it says you're a retired professor, you're a minister, so I want to know how you got into knife throwing.
well, after there's a little bit of a story there, so I can give you the whole story or just come
Go
right to
for
the
it.
point. What would you like?
Go for
Okay.
it.
When when I was teaching, I was in yeah, I was at graduate school at Queens College at the time, and I was teaching in the exercise physiology program, and my specialty was electrocardiography. I had written a 440-page textbook on how to read an electrocardiogram, and one of my students was a physician, boarded in emergency medicine, who was taking a master's degree in exercise physiology because he liked to run marathons. He wanted to know more about exercise. He convinced me to leave the university and go with him in emergency medicine management, and I did as his vice president. EMS Consultants was the name of the company, and we had several urgency centers and a couple of emergency departments that we had the contracts in to supply the ER docs. And after so many years, maybe 5 or 8 years with Alan, uh, he was selling the company. There was really no need for the vice president to go along. I found myself out of work, and I did the most logical thing that a retired professor with a doctorate in exercise physiology can do, and that would be to open a pool hall. So I had opened Doc's Billiards in Bayshore, Long Island, subsequently opened another one, Doc's Billiards, in New Hyde Park. But once I opened Doc's in Bayshore, one of my customers, Joe, came in with a small throwing knife that his son in law had given him for a Christmas present. And he didn't know what it was. I never saw a throwing knife before in my life. I was 50 years old at the time. And two of us stepped out of the pool hall, walked across the street to the church where there was a big tree. And we both decided to see how to make this thing stick into the tree. He slapped it off. I made it stick on my first throw. And I said, Joe, I think I can do that. And that became my life at that point. I was obsessed with knife throwing. And I did 5 years in competition from the age of 50 to 55. And I won national and world championship titles. Then I met a performer by the name of Chris McDaniel, who was a Wild West performer, world champion, world record holder in trick roping and bull whipping, and he wanted to add knife throwing to his act. And he saw an article about me in Time Out New York. invited me out to his place. We started throwing knives together, and he said, "So what are you doing with this bullseye busting stuff? Why don't you put an act together?" And like, the old timers from the 50s, 60s, and 70s called impalement artists who throw around a girl on stage, the spinning wheel and all that. And I said I wasn't interested, but he gave me a videotape of like 2 hours of the old time performers. And he said, just watch this and let me know what you think. Well, changed my life. I sent him back a tape just a week or two later, whatever it was, of me doing all the same stunts that the impalement artists were doing, and I was doing it around a dummy. And he said, okay, let's work out an act. And he helped me put together an act. And now it's 19 years later, I'm still on stage. And that puts me at, if I remember correctly, because things are getting a little crazy with COVID, I'm 74 now, and I'm probably the oldest working impalement artist in the business.
So you're not a
That
magician or an illusionist. You're an impalement artist.
absolutely, I am the real thing. The knives do not come from the back of the board. In fact, during my performance, when I'm doing a stage show, typically like Monday Night Magic at Players Theater in New York City, at one point, my assistant comes from the board. We take a bow together, and she gives me a kiss. And she's got this
Oh,
bright red lipstick on, and she clearly leaves a big lipstick kiss mark on the side of my face. And I turn to the audience and I say, "That's what you get for being a knife thrower, not a magician." So I like to rattle the magicians in the audience. It's a standing joke. I do it all the time. I think that covers it.
okay. Was it a hard switch from going to, just competitions to actually being on the stage?
Well, there's a simple line that it goes like this. And people always ask me the question, did you ever miss? And my answer is the same all the time. I aim to miss. My assistants last a lot longer that way.
Yeah.
So
Have you
that
been
should
through?
cover it. And yet, the next logical question is, okay, you aim to miss. Have you ever hit them? Well, over 19 years on stage doing, I can't begin to count the number of shows I've done and thrown thousands of knives around my assistants. There have been a couple incidents over the years where I've scraped them. Never had to pull a knife out of anyone, but I throw fast and I throw close. And sometimes, as a result of that, if I'm off just a little bit by maybe an inch, it's enough to slide the knife past, you know, and hit the skin a little bit. So there's been drops of blood here and there, but never stabbed anyone, and I hope it stays that way.
I hope it stays that way too. Have you been through a lot of assistants, or do you have one steady one?
Yeah. Yes, uh, but not for the reason you're thinking. These are girls that have their own life, their own profession. Some of them have been, actresses, sideshow performers, uh, everything under the sun. Um, Burlesque dancer, one stage hand professor was another one. Uh, and I work with all these girls at different times because the fact is, when they book the act, they're booking me, and it's my job to bring my assistant. So if someone, I go to the first one online and I say, "Hey, are you available to go to China next week? In 3 weeks or a month for this gig or that gig?" And no, I can't get away from work. Okay, then I go to the next one, and then I go to the next one till I find someone who's willing to take a trip.
Okay, well, you don't have to call me.
Okay, I'll put you all the way down.
You put me all the way at the
But
bottom.
Chris, I had this big discussion with Chris McDaniel when I first started performing about who I should use, what their background should be, and he jokingly said, "If the costume fits, they're hired." So that's not really the truth, because my girls are real all special to me. And if one costume doesn't fit them, we'll get them another costume, and I'll make sure that they look great on stage, and they wear the greatest of clothes, and they're beautiful, and they have great figures, and there's this tremendous love affair between them and the audience all the time.
Nice. About how many knives do you throw per second?
Well, I've set or broken about 44 world records, and the fastest I've been clocked throwing one knife at a time is 3 knives within 1 second.
Wow.
Generally, for something like the wheel, might be about 2 knives per second. And there's a stunt I do with the straight board where I throw to opposite sides of the girl with the knives, out of my hand, peeling back and forth. And that I do it about a half second per knife as well. So, and I introduce this by saying I'm going to throw 10 knives in about 5 seconds. And I think my world record for that is 3.8 or 3.9 seconds for the 10 knives.
Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Yep. That is cool. You did send in a video, right?
Wait,
you sent in
let me say, besides speed, one of my other records is for distance. And I have the world record for throwing a 14-inch knife into a 12-inch round at 101 feet. And often on stage, I will say to the audience, from where I'm standing out to the back, outside the theater to the middle of the street or the other side of the street is just over 100 feet. And I've thrown this knife into that, something the size of someone's head. And that's where the expression comes from. It's just an old circus expression that you don't mess with the knife thrower.
Of course not.
Good advice.
Okay, you sent in a couple of videos, right?
Yes, you asked me. I sent in 2 or 3. Yes.
Okay, so let's pull up one of them and take a look at what you do.
Máximo. El gran Throwdini en Lin, lanzamiento de cuchillos. Estados Unidos de América.
Holy cannoli. Not going to say the other word. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. That was a clip from maybe 3 years ago at the Cuba, which was the circus festival in Cuba. And Lynn, my assistant there, was Lynn. And we were the first knife act to perform in Cuba in about 55, 60 years. Apparently, Castro forgot that he banned knife throwing in the country. And the circus had invited us to perform there. And we, performed for the week, whatever it was in the festival. And the stunts we did there was something that I developed, having my assistant swallow a sword, and then I throw the 10 knives around her in about 5 seconds while she's got the sword down her throat. And the other one, which I'm known for, is the closeness of my throwing, which when you saw she was bent back, I threw about 9 or 10 knives across the profile of her body, actually laying the knife across her body. And the last 2 or 3 were literally touching the throat. Once they stuck. They might have been half-inch away from her throat. And, there's other people that do that stuff. The girl bent back. But when you look at where their knives are, they're about a foot away from the body. So I pride myself in the tightness of that stunt. And a little story goes with that particular show. They told us that Fidel Castro was going to come to the circus that night, and I figured, wow, that would be pretty cool to give him one of my knives. So I asked the ringleader, the ringmaster of the circus, can I present a knife to Fidel Castro? And he said to me, let me put it to you this way. If you so much as look in his direction with a knife in your hand, you'll probably be shot dead before you knew it happened. So keep your knife and don't give him any presents. So that was
Okay.
the end of that thought right there. Yeah. So, but he didn't come anyway because he was sick. And then he died shortly afterward.
All right. We're going to take a commercial
So that-
break and we'll be right back.
okay.
ALJ Service Center, 2100 Belmore Avenue in Belmore. Ray and the crew have an outstanding reputation in the Belmore community, built by hard work, honesty, and professionalism. ALJ specializes in computer diagnostics for today's modern automobiles. Whether it's domestic or foreign, ALJ assures your vehicle is at peak performance when it leaves. ALJ also offers expert restoration and repair on vehicles as well as antique, classic, and muscle cars. Call ALJ for your automotive needs. 516-409-4433. Once again, that number is 516-409-4433.
This is Jerry Ann Casola. She has just finished working on a collection of short stories about the love and joy rescue animals can bring. Each chapter contains a message about how people should and could be kinder to animals. The book is rated G, meaning family friendly. To order Life in the Pits, send $13 to paypal.me/JerryAnn Casola.
Pit of Our Souls, a nonprofit animal rescue that deals primarily with pit bulls but will never turn away any dog, no matter what breed or size. Their primary focus is not only to rescue and rehome those in need, but to educate and rehabilitate to prevent the cycle from continuing. Pit of Our Souls offers boarding, training, and as much assistance as possible to those in need. Call Pit of Our Souls 516-308-6221 or check out their website www.pitofoursoulsrescue.com.
I'm just a lone, lost song, struck by a holy knot. Oh, not my circus, not my monkey. Monkey see, monkey do, monkey see, yeah, but I ain't
All right, and we're back with Throwdini. You know, that was a really cool video. I'm completely floored. How about the knives? Are your knives like, well, we know they're not ordinary. So are they weighted? Are they balanced? Custom?
That's my bread and butter knife right there. It's called the
Ooh.
Throwdini thrower. It's 14 inches long and about, I think it's an eighth of an inch thick. It weighs 12 ounces and it doesn't have a wooden handle on it. professional knife throwers don't use knives with handles. Because like in competition, they use big bowies that have handles on them. But because of the way that we throw, often very close to the body, knives very close to each other, we don't use handles. So one knife can literally slide in right next to another one like that when you want to do something really close and fancy. So there's the typical one. That's 14 inches. And then I also use a 16-inch knife of the same design. It's called a diamond head because of the shape. And that's what I throw.
They're very thin. Are they lightweight?
No. I mean, they weigh that 14-inch knife weighs 12 ounces. It's a when you're holding a handful of 10 of them, you know it.
So you're holding 10 of them and you just.
Yep.
And that's
Yep,
what? That
peel
was
them off
peel
one at
and
a time.
throw, right? Was that peel and throw?
Yes, that's right. The technique that the way I describe my throwing is called peel and throw. I'm just holding a stack of knives like this, and I push one off with my thumb, grab it like that, come back and throw it. And as soon as that one leaves my hand, I come right down and grab the next one. So I peel it off the stack and then throw it.
Wow.
And that's it.
That is completely amazing. I'm just totally floored with the whole, wow, just wow.
Well, when I show them the knives, and the edges here are blunted because I throw from the blade, and it slides. That blade slides out of my hands. But really,
So obviously they're not. That part is not sharp.
Point.
The point.
Correct. That the edges are not sharp, but the point is pretty nasty.
Yeah.
And the idea of that, let me go right, is that knife only has to stick in the wood about that much, like just like a quarter inch maybe, and then that'll hold it up from falling. So all the work is really done at the tip. The edges don't do very much. And when people look at it and they say, "Oh, so what's the big deal? It's not sharp." I'll say very simply, you really don't want to get hit with that when it's coming at you at almost 30 miles an hour. So anyway you get hit with this at around 28, 30 miles an hour is going to hurt.
All right. You are, excuse me? You are a all right, we're getting mixed up here. You're a recipient of Magic's highest honor, which is the Merlin Award.
Yes, the International Magician Society president is Tony Hassini, gives out these statues that look like Emmys and Oscars, and they're really for magicians. But I received one for outstanding performance in the impalement arts, and I think I might be the only non-magician to get one. Maybe somebody else, but 90% of the magicians, like Penn and Teller and David Copperfield, etc.
Wow. How about the hardest? Well, actually, the hardest or the most dangerous act that you do?
That would be the veiled wheel of death. And almost, any of my veiled stunts or blind stunts are the riskiest. Did I say that right? Riskiest.
Riskiest.
Because I don't see the girl. Yeah, I'm just trying to find the right word there. I don't think it came out of my mouth right. But the ones that have the highest, geez, I can't get the right way to explain it. The ones that would be the most dangerous for the assistant would be anything that's veiled. And I do a veiled stunt in front of the straight board, which is 4 feet wide and 6 feet high. And I put 2 girls behind the paper, which is 4 feet wide and 6 feet high, in front of them. And I throw, then the lights go off in the theater and a strobe light goes on. And let me tell you, just try to walk in a room, a black room to a strobe light, and you're completely disoriented. So I threw knives in the black theater to a strobe light, two girls behind the paper, three knives up one side, three knives up the other, and then three right between them. They drop the paper and they walk out. Another veiled stunt. And I say that's dangerous because there's very little margin for error. And I did scrape one girl one time through the paper. That was one of my incidents. And the other would be the Veiled Wheel of Death, which I'm the fourth one in history to do. And I believe there's a fifth one that now has followed me doing it. And I'm the only one that's ever done it as a veiled double wheel of death, meaning two girls on a 6-foot disc with the paper in front of them, and I'm throwing knives around them as it's spinning. No one else has ever done that. I've only seen one person, one act ever do two girls on a wheel ever. Never mind doing it veiled. So those are the ones that, you know, make me think really about what I'm doing, and I'm very concerned for their safety.
Now, when they're on the wheel, is one wheel going one way and the other's going the other way?
No,
Or
it's one wheel. It's spinning clockwise, and the two girls are on it. One is head up and one is head down.
Holy smokes!
So maybe there's only a foot on each side of them on the total wheel that I have to throw knives into, but they're covered with paper and I can't see them, and it's spinning just about 1.1 seconds per revolution, and I'm throwing two knives per revolution.
Let's do the video.
Crazy.
All right, let's watch the video. Let's watch the video.
Okay. That would be with the one girl, I believe.
1938, the Wheel of Death was introduced to the United States by a German knife thrower, Joe Gibson, who toured with Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey Circus. Between 1938 and 1975-ish, only two other knife throwers ever did the veiled wheel. Between 1975 and 2010, some 30-something years, it was never done. But in 2010, I became the fourth, and now the only thrower in the world to do the veiled wheel of death. Thank you. Having said that, the veiled wheel of death. Hold back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay, my jaw just dropped. That was amazing. That was really amazing. Wow.
Thank you. That was at the Borgata Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, and the show was the Great American Variety Show. And the assistant was Target Girl Lynn, my very significant other.
Oh.
Target Girl Badass Lynn.
Now I can cross that
we-
question off.
We did quite. Yeah, she wears a fencer's mask for safety because again I can't see what's going on behind that paper, and at that speed and throwing 2 knives per revolution, if I'm off by probably as much as a tenth of a second, it's enough to hit her because I wouldn't be throwing to the side of her, but her body would be coming up right where I need to throw. So either her face or her feet could be where I need to throw, just being off by a tenth of a second, maybe a little less than a tenth or more than a tenth, but it's a hell of a difficult stunt. And you could see in that one, I normally throw 10 consecutively, but I counted in that one. I did 5. There was a pause, and then I did 5 more because when I came down for the 6th knife, I didn't grab it properly, and I knew I wasn't able to get it off my hand and at the board at the precise moment it had to be. So, uh, discretion being the greater part of valor, I held back, didn't throw the knife, and waited to recycle myself, and then began throwing the next 5 without stopping. But I do prefer to throw all 10 without a break if I can do it. It's, one bad grab, you just have to know that it's not worth 10 in a row when I hit her because I'm behind the sequence.
Wow. That's mind blowing. How about other stunts
now
that you
that's
should I call them stunts or acts? Are they actually stunts or acts? Okay.
No,
Do you guys
all the stunts
practice?
go together to make an act.
Okay. Thank you.
broke up.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Say it again.
Do you practice?
No.
No.
I'm sorry. That's the truth. No.
Huh?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I come up here and that this is Throwdini Central. It's like a little museum that I have in my home. You can see all kinds of world record certificates and stuff on the walls. And there's a board at one end. And when we're working on a new stunt, I will come up here with my assistant and work on the stunt. Other than that, for me, over all the years that I've been throwing, it's like anybody riding a bicycle. You can be off your bicycle for a year and just jump on it and start to ride it again. And so knife throwing is very natural for me. It doesn't require tuning up. The only time that I might spend some specific time here working on something besides a new stunt was if I'm working on a world record and I need to put some time into develop the technique and all the little mechanics necessary to do the world record. But back to your original question, ordinary performance, get up and do it.
Wow. How about other stunts that you do? Can you catch stuff in your mouth or arrows, anything shot at you?
Yeah. Well, Ripley's made a cartoon about me for being the they call it an HBION, HBION, human, believe it or not, and it's because I'm the only person ever to do what we call the triple crown, which is to catch a bullet, an arrow, and a knife. So instead of catching the bullet in the mouth, I used the steel cup and I had it fired and I stopped it with my hand. Then immediately afterward, the same person, Chris McDaniel, threw a throwing knife toward me at one spin, and I grabbed it and took out of the air. And then we went outside, and from about 30 feet away, he fired an arrow, and I reached out and grabbed the arrow. So I'm the only one to do all 3 of those very difficult catches: bullet, arrow, and a knife.
That is absolutely wild. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. It's mind blowing. ALJ Service Center, 2100 Belmore Avenue in Belmore. Ray and the crew have an outstanding reputation in the Belmore community, built by hard work, honesty, and professionalism. ALJ specializes in computer diagnostics for today's modern automobiles. Whether it's domestic or foreign, ALJ assures your vehicle is at peak performance when it leaves. ALJ also offers expert restoration and repair on vehicles as well as antique, classic, and muscle cars. Call ALJ for your automotive needs. 516-409-4433. Once again, that number is 516-409-4433.
This is Jerry Ann Casola. She has just finished working on a collection of short stories about the love and joy rescue animals can bring. Each chapter contains a message about how people should and could be kinder to animals. The book is rated G, meaning family friendly. To order Life in the Pits, send $13 to paypal.me/Jerryann Casola.
Pit of Our Souls, a nonprofit animal rescue that deals primarily with pit bulls but will never turn away any dog, no matter what breed or size. Their primary focus is not only to rescue and rehome those in need, but to educate and rehabilitate to prevent the cycle from continuing. Pit of Our Souls offers boarding, training, and as much assistance as possible to those in need. Call Pit of Our Souls 516-308-6221 or check out their website www.pitofoursoulsrescue.com.
You're on.
All right, and we're back with the great Throwdini. So do you have any advice for anybody that would want to get started?
Oh, yeah. It's quite simple. Several people have come to me for advice over the years, and I give them the same advice that Chris gave me when I started. And that was to be yourself, don't steal from anyone, and be original. Be yourself on stage, just an extension of who you are normally. Don't be up there as an actor, just be up there as yourself. And the audience will feel the sincerity of who you are and what you're doing if you're not trying to be someone else.
Okay.
That's it. That's my basic advice.
All right. You were on America's...
By the way, wait, I just want to point something out. I think over there behind me, you see some knives in a.
Yes.
Okay. The up here, those two. There's three together up there. Those are 3 of 4 that belong to a set that I have that belong to Harry Houdini.
Oh!
And in that same piece is the knife that was thrown that I caught, the arrow that I caught, and the cup that I caught the bullet in. So I keep that plus Harry Houdini's knives there, and one of the 4 I usually take on stage with me when I'm doing a stage performance where I can talk to the audience, and I show them that knife, and I tease the magicians, and I say, you can see it, but you can't touch it. And it's fun. Bring a
Well,
little
how
Harry
did you
Houdini out on stage
acquire
again.
that? How did you acquire that?
Uh,
Highest bidder?
the one who owned them was the second owner, I think, and it was a girl whose parents had got them, and the she was having trouble paying her rent in New York City, and she started Googling knife throwers online and saw my name, Throwdini, so much like Houdini, that she contacted me. And as soon as she asked if I was interested, I think I was in Manhattan a half hour later to consummate
Wow,
that deal.
for
So
sure.
that's about those. You were asking me about AGTA. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You were asking me about America's Got Talent.
Yes. How was it? Were you totally excited for it, or was it just another act for you?
Yeah, both. I did America's Got Talent. I believe it was the second season when Fader won, who's the ventriloquist that has an act in Vegas. And I did both LA and Las Vegas on that show. And then I was cut in that round at Las Vegas when Sharon Osbourne said to me and several others on stage, "Well, you're a one-trick pony." And I mean, how much more insulting can you be? I what the hell else does a juggler do, or a ventriloquist, or a singer, or any other act out there except do what their act is? So to call me a one-trick pony because I throw knives was a very weak excuse to stop me progressing forward at that time. But I did America's Got Talent, France's Got Talent, and Germany's Got Talent. And
Very
Germany's Got
cool.
Talent, I think I was I scared the judges too much, and they stopped me. And then, of course, the act that went on after me was a trained Vietnamese pig that can jump over things, and he was moved on with 3 yeses. So the knife throwers scared them, but they loved the pig. And then in France, I got 3 yeses, and they wanted me to come back. And my condition to go back was that I had to ship a wheel and bring 1 or 2 girls with me to do the veiled wheel, and it was just too much financially for them to bring me back with that much hardware. So I didn't progress in France. I just decided, and mutually with them, that we would
Yeah.
call it quits after the first show.
Okay. You are also a minister, and you have a wedding business?
Yeah, I do weddings on the weekends, weddings, funerals, baptisms. I'm a non-denominational Christian minister, and that's just another hat that I wear. Actually, I've tied the two together. Sometimes the wedding party, you'll see the wheel in my backyard, and we do a photo op with the bride standing on the wheel, and I might throw a few knives around her. Or once they hired me to do knife throwing around the guests during the cocktail hour, right after I married the bride and groom. So that was kind of an interesting twist of wearing both the collar and the tuxedo one right after another.
Wow. So that had to be a quick change, huh?
It was. They one TV show, they dubbed me as Man of Cloth by day, Man of Steel by night. So that was the perfect show for that little expression.
Okay, tell the viewers, since we're getting close to the end, tell the viewers how they find you. Do you have Twitter? Do you have Facebook? Well, obviously you have Facebook. That's how we met. But do you have Twitter? Do you have Instagram and all that?
Well, my website is knifethrower.com, and on YouTube it's YouTube/Throwdini, and on Facebook it's by my real name, David Adamovich. But all the traffic most likely goes through either YouTube or Facebook. Sorry, the website knifethrower.com. That's got all the tons of videos and TV links and movie links and stage links and everything.
Okay. Well, we're just about out of time, so I am going to do my little goodbye spiel. So once again, thank you so much for being on. I have to thank my sponsors, which is Ray from ALJ Service Center. I have Pit of Our Souls. Yeah, great. First, I screw up the entrance, then now I'm screwing up the ending. Pit of Our Souls, which is one of my sponsors. I have Russ and Joanne from the Hitman Blues Band. I want to also thank Bobby, because without my producer, yeah, I'm probably a bag of nerves. And of course, I need to thank my viewers, because without my viewers, I do not have a show. Once again, Mr. Throwdini, the great Throwdini, I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you, and this was a really wild show.
Well, my pleasure. And anytime you're in Freeport and you like a few knives thrown around you, just give me a shout.
Yeah, I was searching around. I know where you are. Matter of fact, my son is over there. So, all right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
All right. See you guys next week.